Hello students, welcome back. Myself Pushpendra Singh and we are going to start with our current affairs. Okay, so today you have the 1st of April 2021. Okay, and we are going to start with basically our current affairs classes. So as you know that these current affairs classes are basically meant for those students who are preparing for the civil services examination, right? As well as other government competitive examinations, because you require to answer the few questions related to your current affairs. All right, so these classes are basically are very useful for those students who are preparing for such examination. You can subscribe our channel on the YouTube, where you will get the current affairs related classes on the day-to-day basis. All right, so let's begin with the class. Okay, fine. So first news is related to the small saving instruments. As you know that small saving instruments are those instruments which have been implemented by the government of India for the purpose of the saving to the common citizens, right? So the news related to the small saving instruments is that the government has decided to slash down the rate which have been there for the small saving instruments. So rate have been slashed down or rate have been cut down. So for the PPF or public provident fund, the rate of return, right, which will be provided on the PPF related small saving instruments, okay, have been brought down from 7.1% to 6.4%. Okay, now which is affecting, ranging from 40 basis point to 110 basis point through the notification. Okay, and this has seen the sharpest cut, if you see, in the quarterly interest rate which is paid on the year-to-year basis or the 1-year term basis, which have been slashed down from 5.5%, which was there in the January, to March quarter, which is basically 4.4% in this quarter. Okay, if you consider the senior citizen scheme, in the senior citizen scheme, the rate of the return have been cut down from 7.4% to 6.5%. Okay, which will make it a bit more attracting. Then on the Sukanya Samriddhi account scheme, the return or rate of the return have been reduced from 7.6% to 6.9%. Okay, don't worry about this digit or these numbers. I have put down in the last slide, where you can easily get it, the comparison regarding this, the rate of return. Okay, next, the interest rate which is paid on the National Savings Certificate and the Kisan Vikas Patra. Okay, on these both schemes, right, the interest rate basically have been also slashed down from currently on the National Savings Certificate scheme from 6.8% to 5.9%. Okay, and on Kisan Vikas Patra, that interest rate have been slashed down from 6.9% to 6.2%, which will make them more attracting to the common citizens. Okay, now consequently, with the decline of this interest rate which have been paid on the Kisan Vikas Patra, right, which have slashed down from 6.9% to 6.2%, the Kisan Vikas Patra, right, which will take to mature, right, significantly, a greater amount of time, right, which will take basically, or which will take some more greater months to mature. For example, when the interest rate that was 6.9%, the Kisan Vikas Patras used to mature in the 124 months. But now this interest rate which have been slashed down to 6.2%, okay, now the Kisan Vikas Patra will take around 138 months to get mature. Okay, then the saving deposits, if you see, the saving deposits have the lowest interest rate, that is 4% till now. Okay, so you are getting 4% of the interest rate. Okay, now this return have now been further slashed. So this return or the interest return that you are getting basically on the saving, right, in the bank account, that will be further slashed down from 4% to 3.5%. Okay, and if you have the time deposits, okay, in your account, then on the 5-year deposits, right, this current, the rate which have also been slashed down from 6.7% to 5.8%. So that means the interest rate or the rate at which you are getting, right, the return which have been slashed down on the basically saving account, which is from 4% to 3.5%, right, for the term deposit or for the time deposits, for 5-year deposits, this, this return has also been slashed down from 6.7% to 5.8%. Okay. Now, if you have to see the highest return, right, which the scheme would provide you the highest rate of return. So which is basically, the highest rate of return will be provided by Sukanya Samriddhi account scheme, which is being followed by the senior citizen savings scheme, and which is being followed by the public provident fund. So these schemes in the decreasing order provide the highest rate of return in these schemes. Okay. So this is the chart I was talking about. So you can see the rate which is there on the June 30th, right? So this was the revised, or this is the revised rate of return, right? So it is a revised one, and it is the previous one which was there, right, on March 31st, right? So today you have the 1st of April. So until 31st of March, this rate was there. Okay. Now this prevailing rate would be applicable from 1st of April to June 30. Okay. Now after June 30, it will be revised further. Okay. So you can see here in the saving deposit for 1-year time deposits. Okay. The rate of return, right, have been slashed down from 5.5% to 4.4%. For 2-year time deposit, which have further slashed down 5.5% to 5%. For 3-year, 5.5 to 5.1. From 5-year, 6.7 to 5.8. Okay. For 5-year recurring deposit, 5.8 to 5.3. Senior citizen savings scheme obviously will have more rate of return. So that is 7.4% to 6.5% less down. Monthly income account from 6.6 to 5.7. The national savings certificate 6.8 to 5.9. Okay. PPF scheme from 7.1 to 6.4. And the Kisan Vikas Patra I was talking about, the rate of return basically have been slashed down, or the interest rate have been slashed down from 6.9% to 6.2%. And with the 6.9%, it was taken around 124 months to get matured. But now with the slashing down of this rate, it will take around 138 months to get matured. Then Sukanya Samriddhi account scheme from 7.6 to 6.9, right? This was basically an interest. Okay. Then the military farms. Now you must understand these military farms are basically, with the armed forces or Indian Army. Now these military farms are basically providing, the milk or hygienic cow milk to the military personnel or to the troops. Okay. So these military farms are basically having, basically a cows, thousands of the cows at the different locations. Okay. These locations or these military farms basically provided the hygienic cow milk to the armed forces, right? So this military farm was first set up, right, for the sole requirement of supplying of this hygienic cow milk, right, for the troops. Now this have been set up across the British India. The first such military farm which was set up under the British government, it was raised on the 1st February 1889, which was set up at Allahabad in Uttar Pradesh. Okay. Next, after independence, right, what happens? This military farms basically continue to grow. So even after independence, after 1947, the military farms basically continue to flourish, right? The military farms had around 30,000 cattle. So you can understand that there are 130 military farms across the country, throughout the country. In that 130 military farms, around 30,000 cattle were there. Okay. Now, recently, these military farms were also established in the Leh and Kargil in 1990s, right? Obviously, the main purpose of this, this military farms basically to supply the hygienic milk to, or hygienic cow milk to basically to the troops, which are basically located in such locations. Obviously, the another task of having this military farms is to manage this large tract of the defense land, because the defense or the military or the Ministry of Defense also have the large tract of the land. Okay. So in order to manage those land, right, there was one such aspect. Okay. The another aspect is obviously to the production related to the cow milk. Okay. And also, right, also, the supply of some of the valid hay to the animal holding units. Okay. Now These military farms are also credited with the pioneering of the technique which is related to the artificial insemination, right? So the artificial insemination was a technique which was basically, adopted by the military farms, right? Which is basically related to, the production or reproduction of cattle, okay? And also the military farms is also known for the organized dairying, which was started in our country, okay? So it has credited with the supplying of the fresh cow milk to the armed forces, to the troops, right? It is also known for the management of the vast tract of the defense land, right? It is also credited with the artificial insemination of the cattle and also the organized dairying process in our country. Okay, now the Ministry of Defense with collaboration of Ministry of Agriculture has basically established the project Fresh Wall. Okay, the project Fresh Wall is basically one of the world largest cattle crossbreeding program. So it was basically credited to the military farms. Okay, and the military farms basically also teamed up with the DRDO, right? Obviously, for the development of biofuel with the help of these bio manure, which is basically available with those cattle farms. Okay, now after serving 132 years of the glorious service to the nation, right, these military farms are basically going to close. So this is basically, serve the country with providing of the hygienic milk, the management of the, the military land, as well as, artificial insemination technique, as well as the organized dairy, which was also incorporated in these military farms. Okay, so the person which is basically standing with the Shahiwal cow, which is basically the most productive cow, which have been, the best among the military farms animal, which is basically clicked on the February 1957. So this is the photo with the Shahiwal cow, which is basically having the high productivity. Okay, next, the Article 224A of the Constitution. Now you must understand, there is an election which is due in basically, in the Assam. So what is happening is that the Congress leader Rahul Gandhi is in the campaign mode, and he is basically promising to implement Article 244A of the Constitution, right, to the tribal majority districts of the Assam. Okay, so what is this Article 244A? So Article 244A is providing the greater amount of autonomy. That means the Article 244A is basically nothing but the creation of the autonomous state within the Assam. So it is basically, it is not like getting, some sort of a freedom, but creation of a greater autonomous state within the Assam state, right? Obviously, this autonomous state would obviously would serve those tribal areas which are falling in those, the declared autonomous state. Okay, this Article 244A of the Constitution, which was basically inserted into the Constitution, is in 1969. Okay, now obviously this Article 244A will have the provision for the legislature. That means the government by the law can create a separate set of legislature as well as the Council of Ministers to govern that particular autonomous state within the state. Okay, now let's understand how it is different from the sixth schedule. Okay, the sixth schedule is nothing but for basically the governing of the tribal areas. Okay, now the sixth schedule is basically applicable to the 4 states, that is Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram and Tripura. Okay, so this is basically a special provision for giving the greater political autonomy, right, to those, the tribal areas, as well as to provide a decentralized administration, the decentralized governance to the tribal areas which are falling in the northeastern states, right? Once the area is declared under the sixth schedule, right, the autonomous councils have been set up. So these autonomous councils are being administered by the elected representatives, which basically belong to that particular, the declared area under sixth schedule. So it will have also the autonomous or autonomy within the state itself. Okay, right. In the Assam, you can say that the hill districts of the Dima Hasao, the Karbi Anglo, the West Karbi and Bodoland territorial regions are under this provision. As I told you that the 6 scheduled regions are basically in Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram and Tripura. Okay, so Article 244 I was talking about, it is basically giving greater autonomous power to the tribal areas. Obviously, the autonomous council which are set up under the 6th schedule, right, they have certain limitations. For example, these autonomous councils which are set up under 6 schedule areas, they do not have the law and order jurisdictions, right? So to provide the greater autonomy in terms of providing this law and order jurisdiction also, right, to the Article 244A would also the one of the most important aspect, okay, related to this, related to this basically, the aspect. All right. All right. I hope it is clear. Okay, let's move to the new slide. Okay, so this is the map of Assam, right? And it is clearly shown that it is basically the northeastern, it is basically part of the northeastern India, okay, which is basically, one of, the hilly area, okay, which is also in terms of the greenery, which is also good. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Okay, so the next is basically AIM Prime. What is AIM Prime? AIM Prime is nothing but the Atal Innovation Mission, which is basically, implemented by the government of India. So Niti Aayog basically launched this AIM Prime, which is nothing but the Atal Innovation Mission, the program for the researchers on the innovation, market readiness, and the entrepreneurship. Okay, so what is this AIM Prime is? The AIM Prime is nothing but it is an initiative, first of all, to promote the startups in our country, to promote the ventures in our country. Okay, now this ventures or the startups are based on the science-based deep technology, right? So it is based on the science-based tech startups as well as the ventures which will be initiated or which will be promoted with the help of this AIM Prime, which is basically a program for the researchers on the innovations, market readiness, and entrepreneurship. Okay, so in this regard, the Atal Innovation Mission basically joined the hand with the Bill and the Melinda Gates Foundation. Okay, obviously the Bill and the Melinda Gates Foundation would provide, this nationwide program, right, which will be implemented as a non-profit technology business incubators, obviously by the Venture Center, right? And this program would be open to the technology developers in the initial stages. For example, these technology developers may be your tech startups, okay, for the scientists, for the engineers, or the clinicians. So they may be part of this technology developers, right, or they may be part of this program, right? Obviously, for the having the strong science-based, the business ideas. Then this program will also be open to the CEOs, the senior incubation managers, which will be provided, right, much needed supporting deep tech entrepreneurship. Okay, and you must also understand this deep technology which we are talking about is, also an outcome of very intense research and the development, right, which is basically also the important aspect of the knowledge content which will be provided in the form of these startups or venture startups. Okay, now this program would definitely, address different specific issues, right? Will also provide, the training and a guidance for the different startups, for the different entrepreneurship for over the period of the 12 months. Okay, next, the Prime Minister Yoga Award, that is PMYA. Now, the Prime Minister Yoga Award was basically an initiative of the Ministry of Ayush. So the prime initiative of the Ministry of Ayush provided the Prime Minister's Yoga Award. Okay, so basically the International Yoga Day, which is basically gained a recognition, right? After that, the nomination process for this Prime Minister Yoga Award was basically begin on the 13th March 2021. Okay, which is basically the date for the submission of this award, right? So this award would be provided, right, basically to the different people on the 13th April 2021. Okay, so the last date which was there, which was begin, right, from 13th March 2021, the last date for the submission of entry was 13th April 2021. Okay, with that, the selected candidates will be provided this yoga awards. Okay, so obviously on the second International Day of Yoga 2016, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the two categories of yoga award, right? The one is basically being provided to the international and another is basically the national level. Okay, so these international and another national yoga award will be announced on the occasion of the International Day of Yoga. Okay, so on the occasion of International Day of Yoga, the two awards, the international award as well as the national award will be announced. Okay, the purpose of this award is basically obviously to recognize and facilitate the individuals organization, okay, which have made the stringent impact on the society, obviously for the promotion of the yoga in the society, right, for a sustained period, right, by the way of the development of yoga, by the way of promotion of the yoga, by the way of imparting the knowledge of the yoga, right, to the society which have benefited out of it. Okay, so you can see here in the picture Prime Minister Narendra Modi performing a yoga with some of with the fellow persons. Okay, next, the ECLGS. What is ECLGS? ECLGS is nothing but the Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. So first of all, you must understand that because of coronavirus or because of COVID-19 crisis or pandemic, okay, certain sectors are badly affected. Okay, now these sectors are in the need of having some finance, okay, or credit. So certain sectors have now been recognized by the government of India for the purpose of this providing of this credit in the form of the Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. So that means those sectors which are badly affected because of such coronavirus pandemic, now these sectors have been identified, okay, and these sectors will be provided the Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. So that will be through the introduction of this ECLGS 3. So with certain private sector which will be provided to such emergency credit line. Now, this Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme 3.0 would cover the business enterprises, specifically in the private sector, for example, the hospitality, the travel and the tourism, the leisure and the supporting sectors, okay, which are already there on 29th of February 2020, right? Obviously, with the total credit outstanding not exceeding with 500 crore. And that was also the overdue if any of them which were for the 60-day or less on the date of 29th February 2020. So this is the cutoff date. Okay, if the particular business or particular sector which are there in the hospitality, travel, tourism, leisure, and sporting, if which are comes under this, the due date, they are applicable for such Emergency Credit Guarantee Scheme. Okay, now this emergency credit, the guarantee scheme would also involve the extension of the credit up to the 40% of total credit outstanding, right? So if the particular sector have the outstanding credit, that will be eligible to have the extension of the credit, which will be the up to 40% of total credit outstanding, right? To all institutions which are as on 29th of February 2020. Okay, now once this emergency credit is being extended to such private sectors, okay, the tenor for the loans which have been granted, right, under the ECLGS would be 6 years, right? So that will also include the moratorium period of the 2 years. Okay, the validity of other, the 1, 2, and 3 ECLGS which was already implemented, right, have been extended up to 13th June 2021. That means the previous version of the extended credit guarantee scheme, which was implemented under the banner of 1.0, 2.0, as well as the currently 3.0, all will have extension up to 13th or 30th June 2021. Okay, or till the guarantee for the amount of 3 lakh crore are issued. Okay, so this is basically other the limitation for the continuation of the scheme. Okay, the last date for the disbursement under the scheme have been extended to the 13th September 2021. Okay, now if any modification which was introduced in the scheme, okay, which was provided in the form of incentives to for to basically MLIs, which basically also provided the additional funding facilities to the beneficiary, obviously, which will be long way in the contribution to the economic revival of such sectors. Okay, the revised this operational guidelines, okay, shall be issued by the National Credit Guarantee Trustee Company Limited, which will be applicable to certain private sector which have been enumerated in the guidelines. Okay, next, the foreign trade policy 2015 and 20. As you know that the foreign trade policy currently is basically executed. Okay, now this policy was up to 2020, okay, between 2015 and 2020, but due to the coronavirus or due to the COVID-19 pandemic, now this policy or the new policy is very difficult to be implemented. So the previous version of the policy, which are already executing from 2015 to 2020, that is the foreign trade policy 2015 to 2020. Now this have the extension, or the government of India has decided to extend this foreign trade policy, which was already there, for the next 6 months. That means for the next 6 months, the already existing the foreign trade policy would be extended. So Union Commerce and the Industry Ministry announced the extension of the current foreign trade policy of Government of India. Okay, now the present policy, okay, which is basically came into force on 1st of April 2015, right, was on to end on 31st of March 2021, right, which is the yesterday's date. But now this date has already passed, and Government of India is not able to formulate a new policy because of COVID-19 crisis. Now the next policy is about to come, but for that we need the extension. So Government of India has decided that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the new trade policy will take some time to come. By that time, the previous version of foreign trade policy 2015 and 20 will be extended for the next 6 months. That means the previous trade policy would be extended up to the 30th September 2021. Okay, now the exemptions which was there already with the foreign trade policy 2050 2021, right, which will be applicable, right, as it was there. Okay, so that will be also, those provisions will also be extended up to the 30th September 2021. Okay, similarly, any validity period for the status holder certificates will also be extended. Okay, obviously any such benefit which are already there with the existing foreign trade policy would have the similar status, would have the similar applicability, right, which was there with the previous version of the foreign trade policy. Okay, next, the India-Mauritius, the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation and Partnership Agreement, that is CECPA, that is Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Partnership Agreement. Okay, so the India and Mauritius, which is a country, which is an island country, now have signed this the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation and Partnership Agreement. Now this India-Mauritius CECPA would enter into force on the 1st of April 2021. Okay, both of these countries have signed this Comprehensive Economic Cooperation and Partnership Agreement on 22nd of February 2021. Okay, now this is the first trade agreement which was signed, right, with a country in Africa. Okay, so with the Mauritius, this was the first such agreement which was signed, okay, with the Mauritius by the India. Okay, now this comprehensive economic economic cooperation and partnership agreement, okay, would provide the institutional mechanism, right, that will basically obviously encourage the trade between the India and the Mauritius, obviously, and also it will boost the bilateral relationship, bilateral trade between the two countries. Okay, this comprehensive economic the partnership agreement is basically applicable to the goods and the services, the rules of the origin, then the trades and services, the technical barriers which are there related to the trade, the sanitary and the phytosanitary measures, the dispute settlement, if any, between the two countries, the movement of the natural persons between the two countries. This agreement will also applicable to the telecom sectors, the financial services, the custom procedures, and the cooperation in another area. That means this comprehensive agreement will have the huge scope. It will applicable not only to the goods but also to the services, sanitary and the phytosanitary measures, dispute settlement between the countries, right? The movement of the natural person, telecom sectors, financial services, custom related procedures, and so on and so forth, right? So it will have the greater sense of applicability between the two countries. Okay, the comprehensive economic partnership agreement between the India and Mauritius will cover around 310 export items for India. Okay, and obviously the Mauritius will also get benefited from such, the market access, which is in the form of preferential market access, which will be provided by the India to the Mauritius, right? In the form of the Mauritius will gain the Indian market for its around 650 products, and the India will get the access for its 310 export items, right, in the Mauritius. So both of the countries will basically going to get benefited out of this preferential market access in another countries. Okay, so this is the map you can see here. Okay, next, the Jal Jeevan Mission. So as you know that the Ministry of Jal Shakti, which has implemented this Jal Jeevan Mission, right, the Ministry of Jal Shakti has decided to use the sensor based, right, the Internet of the Things, that is IoT devices, to effectively monitor this Jal Jeevan Mission, the program in more than 6 lakhs villages. So the sensor based, this Internet of the Things or IoT devices would basically monitor the implementation of the Jal Jeevan Mission. Okay, now the Jal Jeevan Mission or the National Jal Jeevan Mission have collaborated with the Tata Community Initiative Trust, right, as well as the Tata Trust, to complete, right, this piloted projects in the several remote villages of the 5 states. For example, these remote villages have been chosen from the states of Uttarakhand, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Himachal Pradesh. Okay, now this sensor based Internet of the Things or IoT based monitoring devices, okay, would provide the real time monitoring or real time information without any manual intervention. That means it will provide the timely information to the users, the timely information to the government authorities also, right? It will further remove any, the chances of, on any scope of corruption or any scope of delay, and also it will get, it will be beneficial to all the stakeholders of this project. Okay, now it will basically also allow the effective monitoring and the management of, all such Jal Jeevan Mission with the real time visibility to the interstate water supply. Okay, with, all concerned officials and the citizens. Okay, several types of sensors have been deployed under this program. Okay, which is basically in the terms of the flow meters of the water, the groundwater level sensors to measure the groundwater level, the chlorine analyzers to measure the chlorine amount or chlorine content in the water, the pressure sensors to check the pressure so that the smooth flow between, the two locations can be done, the pump controller, right, which can control, the pressure and all sorts of things, right? So these sensors are basically, monitor all relevant aspects of the water service delivery, which will also, ensure that the water is timely, reach to the desired destination. So that will be, beneficial to the village, specifically for the piped water supply. Okay, next, the production linked incentive scheme for the food processing industry. As you know about the food processing industry, so food processing industries are those industries which basically process the food, right? So after processing, they basically make certain products. So that is called food processing industries. Okay, now this is production linked incentive. That means once you produce, you will get the incentive. That is production linked incentive. So that means once you produce certain product, you will get incentive for such production. So for the purpose of the promotion of this food processing industry, the production linked incentive scheme was basically approved by the Union Cabinet. Okay, so it will be a central sector scheme, which will be the production linked incentive scheme for the food processing industry, right? This central sector scheme will have the outlay of 10,900 crore rupees. Okay, the objective of this production linked incentive scheme for the food processing industry is to support the food manufacturing entities, right? So that is, obviously, for example, if they have to maintain the minimum sales, right, and they will have to have the minimum stipulated investment, right, for the expansion of their processing capacity in the food production or food processing capacity, okay, as well as the branding abroad to the incentivize emergency to the strong Indian brand. So ultimate aim is to have the at least minimum supply of or minimum sales, right, the minimum investment for the expansion of their infrastructure in terms of processing capacity, as well as the branding of those sales in the market in the abroad also. So this scheme, which is a central sector scheme, which will be rolled out on the all India basis, okay, and it will be implemented through a project management agency, okay, which is being specially catered to the need of such, the food producers or the food producing agencies, okay, and it will be monitored at the center by the empowered group of secretaries, which will have the group of secretaries, which will obviously chaired by the cabinet secretary. Okay, so this is what is the mechanism of the implementation of this, this production linked incentive scheme to the food processing industries. All right, and the duration of the scheme will be 6 years. That means it will be applicable from 2021 to 2022 to 2026-27. So the duration of the scheme would be 6 years, and obviously the incentive, whatever it is there under this central sector scheme, would be paid for the 6 years ending at 2026-2027. Okay, now this scheme is a fund limited. That means the cost shall be restricted to the amount approved or approved amount. So that is only the limitation with this scheme. All right, so that's all for today. Thank you very much. We'll meet again tomorrow for next current affairs. Thank you very much.